Hi, everyone. Section 8.3 on the inverse of a matrix, in particular square matrices. This is cool stuff, but it's optional. It won't be on your homework or any test or anything, and you can pick it up in linear algebra, Math 254. But let's go over some ideas here. All right, so let's say that you have A, where A is not 0. What is the multiplicative inverse of A? A times what will give you 1? A times what will give you 1? All right. Well, A times its reciprocal will give you 1. Right. 1 over A is A to the negative 1. For example, if A is 3, what's the multiplicative inverse of 3? Well, 3 times what gives us 1? 3 times a third gives us 1. The reciprocal. So likewise, what's the deal with the inverse of a square matrix? Well, if A is a square n by n matrix, there sometimes exists a matrix A inverse. Remember up here, 0 did not have a multiplicative inverse. Some matrices don't have inverses. But if the matrix is invertible, then A times A inverse will give you the identity, which acts like 1 in the world of matrices. And also, the inverse commutes with the matrix. A inverse times A is the identity, like 1. So the procedure to find it is basically making a big block matrix, A slash the identity. I'll show you that. And then you go to reduced row echelon form. So basically, if I give you this matrix, it's a big block matrix. You put this matrix over here. The identity, you put this big old 3 by 3 thing over here to the right of the slash. Do Gauss-Jordan, take this to RRE form. It'll take a while, but again, this won't be on your homework or exams. And you end up with this. The identity is on the left. If the matrix was invertible, you can get the identity on the left. A inverse is on the right. If you want, you could check, but it might take a while, showing that A times A inverse is the identity, or the other way. Now, you can use inverse matrices to solve systems. For example, back in algebra 1, right, you have AX equals B, right? Assume A is not 0. Well, how would you solve for X? You divide both sides by A, right? In other words, you multiply by what? You multiply by the reciprocal, the multiplicative inverse of A, 1 over A. And then you basically get this. But now, what's this? Oh, okay, here I'm writing 1 over A as A to the negative 1. And for matrices, it looks similar. Assume that the matrix A is invertible. AX equals B, all right? Left multiply on both sides by A inverse. Remember, matrix multiplication is not commutative. So when I say multiply by A inverse on both sides, I have to specify on the left. A inverse times A is the identity. You have compatibility here. I times X is X. X equals A inverse B. And that's a way of solving a system, assuming you have one unique solution. And it's a square system. So for example, if you have software and you don't know if it has a solve a system function or things like or anything like that, then you could try these matrix operations. And there are ways of finding shortcuts for a 2 by 2. We won't cover that. Okay, that was optional, but fun. Until next time.